Great. So welcome everybody. Today we're doing a bit of a talk about Artificial Intelligence 101, a practical guide for the rest of us. I'm going to talk about this picture in just a minute, but the thing to remember is that AI does some things really, really well, and that is helps anything learn anything faster, helps you to write better and faster, and it helps you to think things through. And then I'm going to give you some practical examples of that today, along with a bit of other things. It's a bit of housekeeping. We are using Teams webinar, so you are not able to talk at the moment, but you can put your questions into Q&A. So if you've got any questions at all, please drop them into Q&A. My lovely wife, Pauline, is keeping an eye on that, and she'll yell out to me if someone, has something urgent to ask me. But do just want to get through some content, keep it brief, and then we've got more time for Q&A at the end, and then we'll turn on mics and cameras for anyone who wants to ask questions. That won't go to YouTube, so anything in the Q&A section will be chopped out. So we'll keep the presentation part, and the YouTube part will be only just the presentation and not the Q&A. There is a Substack article with more details here. I'll send around links to everyone with all the stuff I'm talking about, and the presentation that we're going through will be made available as well, and the YouTube as well. So introductions, for those of you who don't know me, there's a few names there. I recognize most of them. There's a few names I may not have met people before. So I'm the son of John Sinclair, AO, and I follow in his footsteps, sharing wild ideas, which is true, or ideas wildly. I'm a self-confessed tech nerd, and I'm here to think, but I'm really here to keep things in plain English. This isn't. We'll get a little bit technical at the end because I just want to show that arc of what you can do with AI. It's pretty phenomenal, and this is using AI as a tool. But the goal is just to make it feel approachable, not intimidating. And the actual idea for this presentation came from Sue Sargent, who's on the call. We were having a chat, and she sort of said, "Oh, I don't think I use AI enough," and I said, "Well, I can help with that." And so here we are having a bit of a presentation, a discussion about it. So agenda today, we're going to go through a quick presentation, which you can refer to later. Then we're going to turn a meeting transcript into minutes and actions in under a minute. That's something that probably I know I have to do frequently, and probably lots of people have to do. And we can plan a weekend away just as a bit of an example of something fun to do. And then we're going to update my resume in real time for a job that I just found that looks interesting, but I may or may not apply for, but like just something that was for fun. Like something very practical. Pauline just did this recently and had some great success. Understand a complex document. This is probably one of the really important things to talk about. And then we'll see what's possible without any technical skill at all, just by doing some prompts into something like Claude Design. So the following slides is a little bit meta. So I wrote this to prepare for today. I wrote a blog, and then I checked everything and tested everything and thought through what I'd like to present today. Then I wrote a blog about that, and I published the blog up on Substack. Then I took the blog and put it into Notebook LM, and then Notebook LM generated some slides for me. So the next set of slides I've not prepared, but they're quite good. I prepared them in that I wrote a blog, but the slides were just written by the AI. It's just taken that content from the blog and turned it into some slides. So Artificial Intelligence 101, practical guide for the rest of us. So, really, you've got two distinct camps at the moment. We've got some people who are using it all the time who aren't, probably don't understand why people don't use it more. And then we've got people who are probably in the middle camp. Maybe they're not quite, not quite there. But we've also got people who are probably really worried and concerned about it, and they're not sure, and they want to know. So that's the presentation today, is for the people in the intimidated holdout group, or maybe ones in the middle as well. And really it's about learning, writing, and thinking. You can learn things faster. AI can help you to synthesize data information better. It can boil it down better. Heaps of examples of this, and we'll look at a scientific paper that is excellent, but just makes it easier to understand for those who aren't scientists. Could be any other topics. Writing, I'm doing a lot of writing, having AI help me and then correct it for me and then critique it for me. So it's a bit like working in a team, and it's just been really, really helpful for me. And then just thinking things through, ability to brainstorm, ask questions, and again, you're working with someone who doesn't judge. I mean, they're not a human. They don't care. They'll answer pretty straight questions. You sometimes have to ask the AI to be more honest. So I've got one of my agents is called Honest Critic. So they're pretty honest about my writing. So everyday value spectrum. So we got, things like low stakes administration, things that aren't too hard, cognitive things like, that are really important. So writing resumes, we've got event planning in the middle. We've got complex document analysis, and then we've got things that are much more advanced. So that's the sort of the spectrum that we're going to go through today. And I've just been doing something in the last week that's just, I could never even thought of doing this in the past. So the most important thing is really is about prompting to just do something properly. When you're doing something simple like turning minutes into something like taking a transcript and turning it into minutes, you don't have to say a lot. So the prompt's going to be something really simple like please create meeting minutes from the following meeting transcript and identify any action items. And typically you can get those meeting transcripts using Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Depending if you've got the licensing from different companies, you may just actually get the minutes directly. Sometimes you might want to get the minutes and modify them so you can just ask them in a different format. But we're gonna go through this shortly. Planning logistics without someone who can help you. So for example, I'm planning a weekend away with Noosa for 3 couples. What are the best options? You'll get different results from different AIs, but you're gonna get a great result out of this and things that you may not have thought of. So we'll show you that in a second. It's can be very interesting. We might try an alternate AI if we don't get good answers. Updating resumes, the classic one these days is it's really important that you have a great resume. If you're applying for jobs, you apply a great resume, and then you really want to make sure that it's for the target that you're going for the job. So maybe tweaking the resume and changing a paragraph or two just really subtly can just get more attention for you, and definitely helping to write a cover letter. And if you're applying for a lot of jobs, I spoke to a young person the other day in IT who'd applied for something like 300 or 400 jobs. Like it's a lot of effort. So you just want to make sure that you can, get a target, your resume's relevant, up to date, says all the right things for the job that you're applying for, and then also has a targeted, cover letter that covers that off. Sometimes people only read the cover letter, so you just got to get their attention. So an AI just takes the friction away and really helps. So, like we're going to go through a paper that's very complex. It's from Jamie Schulmeister, and it's brilliant article about, or paper, a scientific paper about the history of Gari, and I'll show you the way we go through it. But just wonderful for just understanding that and getting this just stuff that you probably have trouble understanding. You might get most of it, but just trying to get some of the technical terms, really scientific terms, and distill them, just really useful for that. Vibe coding. So there's this vibe coding thing. I've just released a blog today saying, vibe coding might not be everything it's cracked up to be. However, doing something and getting something working quite simply is just no problem, right? So you can do some pretty cool things if you needed to, and should be careful about security and all the things that you should always be careful about when using someone else's software. But you can get something going, and maybe you need to do something very simple for a party or something, and you can use vibe coding to write a little app that you can do something, and you can just get all sorts of insights from documents by just understanding what's going on, and there's just so many things that you can do. We'll get there. So we got learn, write, and think. So that's what AI is gonna help you with. And what's really important is about prompts. This is in the blog. We're not going to cover it in great detail today, so that if you follow up, the blog is a really good reference. But when you're doing things, you really want to make sure that you're doing really good context. So you could ask something like, write me a blog about, a post about leadership. Great. However, write me a 700-word blog post for a LinkedIn audience of mid-level IT managers using a direct and practical tone, arguing that leadership is the biggest constraint on team performance, is just going to get you a fairly awesome article from most of the current models. You're just going to get a really good result. More context, naming an audience, any other constraints you've got. You can actually give the AI samples of your previous writing, and it will not sound exactly like you, but it'll be pretty close to how you would write. And the prompting is not hard. You don't have to go over the top, but just probably the simplest thing is a few more things than less things, and also asking questions. I did write a blog about six six ways to use Claude better, and they apply to most AIs, the same principles. So you really want to make sure that you are um, asking the AI to ask for clarifications, clarifying questions. So where there's options, if you don't do that, the AI might just drive ahead and just go and assume a bunch of things, just like a human would. When you ask for clarifying questions, it will. If it's got decisions to make or options to deliver, it will ask a question and clarify. So very, very useful. Um, so we are still responsible, and this is really, really important. And you'll see most AI policies in most organisations, including the government. So I was working for the Bureau of Meteorology for a couple of years, and this was really important in the AI policy for federal government. Basically, you are a human involved. You are doing a prompt. The AI is doing something for you. It's essentially your agent that is doing something for you. It generates something, then you read it, you verify, and you are responsible for the output. So don't you want to get away from that thinking that, oh, it's AI. I can tell people AI generated it. If you're using it that way, you might not be using it right. So it's a place for you to get started. It's a place for you to get accelerated, get really good results. But you want to make sure that there's no errors in it. Like when I'm writing blogs and articles and doing research, I'm fact checking things just like I would have if I'd written it myself. I'm just accelerating that process by having the AI helping me with the research and finding articles that I may not have found. And then I just go through and fact check everything and every sort of make sure that the article's accurate and that the research is accurate and everything else, right? So it's just really important. You are accountable for the results that the AI generates that you're going to produce and publish as yourself. So, trust but verify. AI generates plausible responses. It's going to be different models will try and make you happy. So they'll try and be like they're trying to do more. And then you want to protect your information. So you want to make sure that it is a public. So don't share sensitive data. So if you're working for an organization doing consulting and they don't have an AI policy, then you want to find out where your position is. But you definitely shouldn't be putting proprietary material into a public computer, because that's what most AIs are. You can run AI on your home computer if it's powerful enough. Um, and then, the best way to do is if you're trying to get across AI is just start small. Just pick something that you're doing all the time. Something that's just really that takes half an hour to do that you can get an AI to do in 5 minutes. Like for example, I just have every day I get a message on Slack from Claude giving me a weather update for the day. And if it's going to be a weather alerts on it, it's a critical message that I get from Slack. So there's little things that you can do that AI can help you out. So just do something simple first and get started. So all of these things are free. You can pay for them if you needed to, but all of the things that we're going to see today, with the exception of Claude, I'm paying for Claude, but everything else that you're going to see is free. With Microsoft Copilot, if you've got like a like a Copilot subscription, sorry, Microsoft 365 subscription, you'll get basic Copilot for free. If you've got a Google Workspace account, you'll get basic Google Gemini for free. A little bit of extra things, a little bit slightly higher than the free version if you don't have any paid. No one's giving money to the organization at all. So ChatGPT sits out there. Most people don't have any other dealings with ChatGPT and Anthropic, for example. But you can actually do things with the Google and Microsoft ones, and you get a little bit more features if you've got a paid account. So that's what we're here to go through. AI is not going to replace your thinking. It's not going to make you think. It will help you think faster, be better supported. Sometimes when you're trying to get something done and there's no human to do peer review, and you've got to get it out, you've got an agent there that can do peer review, and depending on who you normally get to peer review, it's great to have someone neutral doing it. So we're going to do a demo. I've managed to get through our little intro in just under 15 minutes. So we're going to we're going to go through those things now. We're going to do a transcript into minutes. We're going to do a weekend away. We're going to do a resume update. I'm going to show you Notebook LM. It's hard to describe that. And then assuming we've still got time, we'll run through some things with Claude Design and some software I've been working on. So go to the left here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn a meeting transcript into minutes. So I'm just sitting here with an empty prompt. I've just gone to ChatGPT and I did log in. I've got a free account on ChatGPT, so I get my history over here on the left. When you've got a free account, that means that you'll get so many credits or so many things for free. So if you were using lots and lots of questions, then you'll get, at some point you'll run out. But I'm just going to go and take the meeting minutes here. So to get these meeting minutes, I actually asked Claude to make them up because I didn't want to take meeting minutes from a real meeting and send them in. So I'm just going to paste that in. And you see here at the top, I've just said, please create meeting minutes from the following transcript and identify any action items. And there's these are just made up people. This is all fake. It does talk about weeding in Ongari just to make it a bit relevant to the audience or most of the audience. And we're just going to hit go. Now, it happened almost instantly. So there's our minutes. Sometimes it'll go away and chunk and think for a little while. Sometimes it'll do something else. If you're using Cope, you can do the same thing using Claude or Gemini or Copilot. You would come into here and you might just be able to have the Word document from the transcript that you got out of Teams, just open it straight up into Copilot and generate the. It's actually interesting. It's obviously going around and finding articles on various places, but there's the 82 volunteers registered. We wish that would happen. So pretty comprehensive, right? So that's our first example, and I think I said that would happen under a minute, and I think it did. We'll jump over to Google Gemini. Now, Gemini is just found at gemini.google.com. I was born in June, so not that it really matters, but I am a Gemini. So let's go back to our notes here. Just lost quickly. It's always the way. The mouse is never fast enough when you're in a hurry. Right, so we're going to go, I'm planning a weekend away, so we're using Google Gemini to do a quick exercise for us. Now, I did this in a different AI, so we'll see what result we get, and we might try a different one if it's depending. Gemini is great. There's a whole lot of argument about which one's better and smarter. Most people would say that Claude's the superior, but it's all relative. Gemini's very good, and you don't have to really worry. So here we can see now it's come up with it's still thinking, it's still going, and you can show it's thinking. So that's always interesting to sort of understand the thinking that the AI is doing. And I didn't give it a balance. So what we'll do in a second, I'll repeat that, but we'll make the prompt a little bit better because we've got heaps of time. And you can see here my very straightforward prompt. I mean, it's suggested luxury villas. It's suggested a penthouse. It's got the rainforest vibe at Little Cove, which is kind of cool. It's got a bunch of restaurants that it's recommended, and it's going down onto activities beyond the beach. A few pro tips, private chef. Must think the budget's much higher than I would have. Book the ferry, $10 to $15. So what we'll do, we'll repeat the prompt. And what we might say is, we'll just, you're giving it more context as I was just talking about before. So we might want to say our budget. Our budget is medium. Our budget is not penthouse style or private chefs. I mean, we could put a dollar number in there, so we could put in, I don't know what accommodation is it. I know it's a $400 a night. Let's go with that. What are the best options? So and so you can repeat the question with a little bit more context if you're not getting the answers you want. And that's probably one of the really key skills with prompting or AI, just using an AI. If you're not getting the answer you want, just refine the last prompt. Don't, unless it's completely out of whack, but if you just refine that prompt a little bit, you can sometimes get a little bit better And it's immediately come up with, suggestions like the Noosa Family Resort at Noosaville and Key Largo and a whole bunch of other much better options. And then, it's taken something just with that simple change, a little bit more context, it's coming up with much more realistic things than private chefs and penthouses. So that was our planning a weekend away. People have told me, and that they've literally gone and done all sorts of things in this, and it's just gone overseas based on this. A bit more work than we've done and getting a bit more detailed. But you can actually also ask the AI to make up a bit of a plan and maintain a bit of a plan for you. Write a document, maintain a document of the agenda that you want to go with. For your trip, your itinerary for your trip. So all of these things are very useful that you can have the AI helping you. Right, we're going to bring up Copilot in Word. So I've just gone into, it's the Microsoft have changed all their URLs here, but we've got word.cloud.microsoft. I put my resume in here earlier, so we're going to open that in Word. And I have a job description over here for a job that I found that looked interesting. Put that in, we're just waiting for Word. This opened instantly earlier. Secret tip, if something like from a company like Microsoft hasn't loaded, I just hit the reload button and all of a sudden it worked. So, you give it a few seconds, but lately I'm just finding they're all getting very busy, lots of load. And, you can just hit the refresh button if it's sort of gone past, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. Don't keep hitting reload. I just knew that should have loaded faster. So I've got the job description in memory. I'm just going to say, can you please update my resume to suit the job description? Now, I probably wouldn't normally do this. I'd probably have a bit of an interaction with the AI. I mean, I typically use Claude, and so go down to the bottom here. So lining things up, and then it's started changing things straight away. So basically, it's gone through the job description. It's looked at my resume, and it won't. Still got to proofread it, as I just said, but it's going to update the structure that's there to suit the job. Right, so it's going to just be tweaking it a little bit, and it's going to be rewording things. When I do things like this, I would always still fully proofread the entire document again, just because that's the right thing to do. You just want to make sure that it hasn't made something up. Hallucinations are still happening, but they're not as bad as they were maybe a year ago. But they will sometimes just sort of make things up. The other one you want to be careful of is M dashes. This fat line here is like a double dash as one character. It's called an M dash. It is actually valid, um, you know, syntax or using that. Just no one uses it. Only AIs. It's not true. Almost only AIs use it. It's just something they've read about and they just like to use it. So just as a bit of an example, you want to watch out for M dashes, because if you see M dashes, most people will just assume that an AI has been involved. So here we go. It's been going down here. It's reworded everything that's in blue. It's reworded. So that looks pretty good. It feels like those changes. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be using this. And so what we want to do is we can also then say, can you please write me a cover letter? This role. I did put in, it might ask me some questions. I'm just going to go blind and see what it does. It was for compare the markets. Interesting, it's inserting it in the different AIs do things a little bit differently, but that's okay. It's just inserted it at the top and started again. And so, that's the wording there looks okay to me. Yeah. This is again, you want to make sure this is all defensible, right? So you should always proofread it, make sure it doesn't make something up or make assumptions about your work. And there's our cover letter written. It did do it in the same document, which isn't really a big problem. And it's just saying over here what it did. I added a tailored cover letter, and and then and then now you can tweak that a little bit more. So I think that was a reasonably good example of what can be done. And Copilot's improved a lot in the last sort of 6 to 12 months. So it's actually caught up with a lot of the technology. And Copilot, Microsoft use other people's models. So you've got some options there, but in general, all the stuff's a lot better now. But again, don't forget, it is your artifact. It is a document that you're responsible for. You need to proofread it, make sure it's okay before it goes out. And don't forget to remove the M dashes. I have instructions for my AI not to use M dashes, and it's pretty good. So our next one is we're going to look at Notebook LM and understanding a complex document. And this document that we're going to go to is one that's quite complex. So let me just bring up the, just need to find the document. Oh, here it is. Right, so I'm going to do a little bit of a chef special, and sometimes it doesn't take too long, but it's a bit too long for a demo. So I've got this document here. It's a chronology, and I'll just open it and bring it up on the screen in a second, but we'll just drop this in here. Now, crunch, 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 straight away, that's going into it. Now, this is a beautiful document about the history of Gari and how it's formed by the longshore drift and the eastern currents. So most of it of Gari actually is imported from northern New South Wales, or New South Wales in general. So the sand coming down the rivers, the rocks smashed together, the sand goes into the ocean, gets washed up onto our beautiful islands in Queensland. And this is Jamie's wonderful paper that was really quite revealing. And from memory, it took him several years, or him and the team several years to get through it. A lot of really interesting concepts here, wonderful data, wonderful things, just pictures, all sorts of things. So we're in here, it's loaded that document, it's given us a summary. What we could now do is click these buttons over here on the right. We could generate an audio overview. We could generate a quiz. So Notebook LM is about learning things. It's about how to synthesize the information better and get it to a more neutral language. When you press one of these buttons, it will take a little while, not too long, it will take a little while to process it. So for example, you click mind map and it says generating on one source. Now I went and did this earlier, like a couple of weeks ago. And so here we see the same document, and I've generated some sources already. So we can just go and have a look, and we see now a PowerPoint presentation. So it's generated this PowerPoint presentation of Beneath the Sand, and it's really surprised me. Like, it's actually updated pictures, and it's pulled things out and pulled this together. It's really quite impressive. It, and if you're having trouble sort of distilling that information, it's really quite good. You should be using this and then going back to the source material and cross-referencing it. It's a what I would call a research aid, or a learning aid. But it really is quite good. I'm not a scientist in this area, but it matches the document pretty well and pulled together lots of really interesting things. It talked about all sorts of concepts that were in the thing in that document. Now, the other one that it did that I thought was really great was this just one page of the infographic, they call these, just a wonderful, simple summary of that whole paper to, again, maybe keep if you're trying to understand this document, keeping that handy and just a quick reference to remember the main points. You can do flashcards, you can do all sorts of other things. I'll go a little bit, I think I've got it in this one. I'm just not sure which one I've got it in. No, it's not in this. Oh, here it is. Here, found it. So this is me. I took the final draft of my thing, and then I just dropped it into here, and I said, please generate the PowerPoint slides, and that's the ones that we just went through. And then I had asked it to do an infographic, and that was the infographic that was the first page of the slide deck, and that's the one I used in the blog post, because I quite like taking my blogs, and then I find that this Notebook LM does these really well, just giving me this one-page summary of the whole thing, an infographic of the whole blog post. So I've been doing that quite a lot, and I like, for me, I like having that one-page summary, the sort of simple thing that people can save and refer back to. Right, so we've powered through all of that, and we've got heaps of time, and I'd rather get through it faster and move on. So let's move on to, I'll just quickly show you the blog post. It's up here on Substack, so you can go and find that. And I did these diagrams a different way. These rest of these pictures a different way, but I put it into a tool called Abacus. I just put the whole blog into a tool called Abacus AI, and told Nano Banana Pro to generate the images. I did nothing else. I just put the article in, and it just did a fantastic job of generating those images that are just completely sort of relevant to the context of the article. And that's because the AI had lots of context for what you wanted it to do. It even chose the place where the picture should go. So it was pretty helpful, saved me a lot of time. Now I've gone into like Claude is wonderful. Claude is from Anthropic. There's been a lot of press about Claude lately because it's quite clever. They're doing things a little bit differently, and they've also got a bit of maybe a little bit more ethics than some of the other companies. Now, I could give a whole long presentation about Claude, and if people are interested, I'm happy to go do that another time. But I just want to show some really advanced features that are just amazing, that how they work. So I'm going to look at artifacts. So I'd had this idea for years. I write software and do all sorts of different things, but I was also a network expert back in the 90s and the noughties. And I had this idea to have a network management software where you would manage the network, and you could fly into the and fly around and look at the network and understand it. And I remembered this the other day, and I remembered artifacts. So I said to Claude, could you please make me, where did it start? For a really long time, I've been thinking about a network traffic visualization, the ability to see them as a network graph, and then zoom in like a game and move and trick around. That's all I gave it, right? Plus, I've been working with Claude for a little while, so it sort of had some ideas of what I do, and it helped me with some projects and doing some code for some other software I wrote called NMIS a long time ago, and it's an open source project that's been running for over 20 years. And but it went through and it sort of went, hey, let's do this. And it's a fantastic idea. I didn't realize it had this sort of interesting font. I quite like this font. And now over here on the right, this is actually interactive. Like we can actually fly in. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. It's actually gone and got live data from some other software I wrote, and it's put it all in and it's pulled it all together because it can. And then it's just showing it to us here, in the system. And so that's actually one of my, that's my router that I use to access the internet. And these are the actual interfaces from it. And it's just giving us an example. And then things mean things. So the orange ring means that the device is degraded. So it's not live and really live. It's what we call a prototype, but it's just giving you an idea of what's possible. And it actually really helped me because I went, oh, wow, I can do that in this library. And so I've had this has been wonderful to give me ideas. And I just realized it's actually using gaming WASD. I'd never even noticed that down here. So it's doing WSAD, which is your gaming keys to just move around, and you can click a node to sort of fly to it, and you can go around and look at other things. And there's a FIDO websites online and healthy and so forth. So that was something that I thought was pretty kind of interesting. And then the next one is Claude Design. So that's just called an artifact, and that's been around for a while, and you can get it to do lots of other things too. And when we go to Q&A, people might want to give me something we can test with it. But I'm working on some software at the moment because I'm just working on software because I can. And it's called Chaos Core. And I basically sort of put my description of what I wanted the software to do. And I had some notes, and I had a PowerPoint. This is the way I operate. I just start putting ideas into things, and I just wrote it all down and what should it do, and it came up with this prototype. It's working prototype, but it's just made up data. So it's just pretending it's talking to a real network and collecting data, but it lets you interact with it. And then you can actually even, you can actually do things. I'm not quite sure how you do it. I haven't bothered to tweak anything, to be honest. Um, there is a way you can use the tweaks and you can play around with it. Oh, that's what you do. So there you go. So you can change the AI backend, you can change the event rate, you can change the accent colors. And there was one I clicked on the other day, and you could change the, change different aspects of how it worked. So this was one I did the other day, and that you can actually get that back out. That's actually a HTML file. So you can take that back out and you can actually feed it into Claude Code, and it will write the code to generate, because this is all code. Everything you're seeing here is done in code. And we'll just go back to the designer, and I'll just finish up with the demo, just showing you something. I just clicked the wrong one, apologies. Chaos Control. And I've already sort of worked on this software. I've been working on it just for the last week, and I just wrote a blog post about it today. And so again, I took this document, and I'm going to show you how that worked in a minute. I took this document, which summarized my idea, which was quite a long note, but not massively long. And then I sat down with Claude Code, which I'm going to bring up and sort of show you how that looks like in a second. And then, but they always asked Claude Designer, just can you go and do this for me, please? And so this is a GUI prototype of the software. Now, I didn't actually give this to Claude Code. It's interesting. I didn't give this to Claude Code. I just sort of put it in, and then there's the artifacts and there's the agents running and whatever. But I never gave this to Claude Code, the actual robot that wrote the software. So what I did was I used Claude Code Interactive in a browser. In a thing we call Visual Studio Code, which I'll just bring up. And this is called Chaos Control, is my nickname for it. And I started with this concept, and I just said the idea. So the original, the OG one is down here. Innovation Maker. So this was the original idea here, and that's all I gave it. And I'll just give you that as a preview. So that's the work. We call a markdown document, and it's just I've given it that, and it's just this concept, and this is all I gave it. And then from that, it asked me some questions. And this is why I sort of showed you. So it came back and it said, here's the questions I've got. And so these green text here is my responses. So this are the questions. And this actually took me a while, but it was wonderful because I didn't give Claude enough context to write the software for me, but I gave it some really good ideas, and I had, and then Claude's come back and say, how do you want to handle this? What do you want to do here? How do you want to make that happen? And what should we do when we get to this problem? So over the last week or so, I've been working on Claude on Chaos Control, and this is Chaos Control. And Chaos Control, the original idea was the problem that I had is I wanted to be able to take all the ideas I've got for Chaos Core and just be able to visualize them and understand them, and then figure out the relationship between them and start to see what was going on. So this is the state of what I've been working on. And so now we can actually add show completed and show the labels and the connections between them. So this is actually representing artifacts that have been generated by the system. And it's just, kind of fun to just cool around. And the gray rings mean everything done. So there's a lot of done things here. The greenish dots, the orange dots are actually ideas. And so that means they're not done. And that's a draft, or haven't decided what to do with that yet, and haven't decided that one's done. This one's a multi-language support if someone wanted that. So these are all things that are ideas, and then it takes us through the life cycle. So we typically, and when you're doing software development, you would use a thing called a Kanban, and that everything I'm talking about can be represented on a Kanban. So the things in the middle column are in progress at the moment, and then right now we've got one that's blocked because it's waiting. It's got some questions that it wants me to answer, so I can actually click on that item, and then it's blocked, so I can jump to the questions. There's the questions I've got to answer before the robots can continue. And then I just did one earlier, so I'll just go back to that. I'll see where it's at with this. Sorry, clicking on the wrong button. So we need to do one with an, I prepared one earlier. So I've got Analyst Planner, which I'm going to rename to Planning Analyst. And then I'm just going to run that one now. So the AI is now going to go and do that job, and you'll see it appear in the queue here, and then we click on it and away we go. So I'm showing you a really much more advanced thing of than we've been looking at before. But this is where you can get to with AI if you wanted to. And this is the sorts of things that it can do at that more extreme spectrum for what AI does, but very powerful stuff. And the reason I probably wouldn't, if I wasn't using AI, I never would have had the time to do this. If I wasn't using AI, these are ideas I've had for a long time that I just don't have time to work on. But when I've got an AI helping me out, I can just get the AI to do the legwork for me, and away we go.